Good day. Hey, so this is going to be a quick session that's going to go over our recent changes in the policy and procedures manual. I'm going to show you where you can find our policy and procedures manual, and then you should have, you will by now have received an email directing you to come view this recording if you have questions, as well as you will be getting in your 1099 for this year, this year being 2020, for 2019's 1099, a letter with a specific information regarding the policy and procedures changes that we're going to address here. First of all, I want to make sure everybody understands where you can find this. You received one when you joined, but if you ever want the most updated version of that, then the best place to go is we have it loaded on Paperless Pipeline. I know you go to Form Simplicity and Transaction Desk for most of your forms. Things that are more miscellaneous in nature, this would be a good point to show you this as well. In the home page of Paperless Pipeline, once you log in, there's a reference section. And if you click on reference, you're going to see all sorts of things, right? So here are our checklists, all FHR checklists, closing documents, contract forms that are optional, some of the FHA for your protection, the specific seller will not disclose, seller's disclosures, HUD bid information when you're submitting a HUD bid, so on and so forth. Here's the waiver that's signed by me for MLS entry. But if you go down to the miscellaneous, there's a couple, well, many different things we can go over. There's a lot of stuff here. However, many disclosures. But if we go down to FHR Policy and Procedures Revised 01-2020, if you click on that, that will be the latest revision. We'll always keep these updated. Our independent contractor agreement is there as well. So when you, I've now opened it, you go down, it's a 12-page document, and you can go through it page by page. For the purposes of this, I want to focus specifically on one area. So I'm going to bring up a PDF. Now that we're done with that, I'm going to bring up a PDF of the specific area. You can go through the whole document. We've made minor changes on some things, most of it grammatical in nature. But the major change for 2020 going forward is under the sales and purchases for sales for associates' personal use. Now, this is a property. I'm just going to go through this and read through it and help you understand why we're doing this. It's critical. We've had some issues of late with agents selling their own properties, and there inherently is a legal issue that comes about when you are acting as an agent and also a seller or buyer, but specifically a seller, more importantly. So we've come up with some workarounds to help us through this, to help protect you and us in these situations. I need you to listen to this carefully, read through it. It makes sense, and understand it. If you still have further questions, you can reach out, but I'm going to ask you with 1,400 plus agents, I'm going to ask you to really think through what I'm telling you here. And so, and then you can certainly reach out with further questions after you've had a chance to digest this. All right, for the purpose, here it is. It's on page 8 of the Policy and Procedures Manual, revised January of 2020. For the purpose of this section, associate-owned properties include any entity in which the associate has any ownership interest. That means even if you are not named as the seller, but it's some LLC or some entity of which you have ownership interest, any ownership interest, could be as small as 1%, then this is going to apply. Certainly applies if you are selling it as yourself, Bob McDougald. All right, even if Bob McDougald, this applies. If it's Right Side Holdings, which Bob McDougald is has an ownership interest, then that applies as well. Next line is critical. Florida Realtor forms are copyrighted and therefore for use only by a Florida Realtor acting in that capacity. That means this, is that if you are going to proceed with any of these options that we are going to show you here, we have to understand that the use of Florida Realtor forms will have some definite prohibitions because you're not going to be acting as a realtor, and therefore you are not authorized to use those forms because you're not, even though you are a realtor, you're not acting in that capacity. All right, so we'll go over here in a little bit. All right, so here's an option. If an associate sells or purchases real property in their own name or an entity that they own, they may close it as an individual quote unquote by owner, provided that they agree that Future Home Realty shall not be named in any capacity as representing the associate owner in the transaction. That means you could, let's say you want to buy a property, but you're not going to take a commission and you'd rather just not run it through the office at all. That is completely fine, not a problem. However, you cannot reference us in the contract. All right. You have to just say, I'm buying it, as just anybody off the street. All right. This includes the prohibition of the associate owner from utilizing any signage that reflects the name of Future Home Realty, which means you cannot put, let's say you're going to sell a property by owner without putting the MLS and not running it through us, whatever the case may be, then no signage. You can have a for sale by owner sign out front, but it can't, and it can have your name and phone number. It just can't have your name and phone number as associated with Future Home Realty because you are not acting in that capacity. Florida law still requires disclosure to all parties that the associate owner holds a Florida real estate license. So you still would have to disclose in the contract that you have an active license, but you are just not acting in that capacity, right? So nowhere in there does it say Future Home Realty. It just says John Smith. All parties acknowledge that John Smith holds an active Florida real estate license. You don't even mention who it's with. You can just say that you have a license. They're free to check that through DVPR. All right. Next paragraph. In the event an associate owner exercises their right to sell their property by owner, all right, that means you're not going to put it in the MLS. Any use of Florida Realtor forms, this goes back to the first paragraph, may only be initiated by a buyer's agent who was a Florida Realtor member. That means, let's say you put a for sale by owner sign, you're not going to put it in the MLS, Future Home's not involved, all right? And we have a prohibition then from using Florida Realtor forms. However, if another agent from another company, or our own company technically, contacts you and says, hey, I have a client, are you willing to pay me a commission? Just like any for sale by owner, if you elect to work with that person and work out a commission agreement with them as an owner, not as an agent, but as an owner, then they can initiate the contract and utilize Florida Realtor forms, and you are fine there. We don't need a copy of any of this because we are not involved, right? This is all a buy owner situation. But they initiated it. They, the buyer's agent, is acting in the capacity as a real estate agent and therefore is allowed to use those forms. All right. However, if someone off the street comes to you, all right, someone just drives by, sees your sign unrepresented, and you are acting as a buy owner, you have a prohibition against using Florida Realtor forms. Okay. That's what this says. If the buyers are not represented by a realtor, then the associate understands that the use of any Florida Realtor's forms in the transaction is strictly prohibited. Associate owner listings that are sold by owner may not be entered into any Board of Realtor MLS. No commissions or fees shall be owed to Future Home Realties for sale of by owner. And by the way, into any Board of Realtor MLS, that is even after the fact. You cannot enter it as you want to see your statistics go up of having sold that home. Doesn't apply. All right. Unfortunately, it's not going to work for us. We just have had multiple issues of disclosure issues from agents who are also owners, and it is tainting the company because the owner is a licensed realtor. So we've got to make this prohibition. All right. In the event the associate exercises the right to purchase real property by owner, this is for selling by owner, this is you're going to purchase. Any use of Florida Realtor's forms may only be initiated by a listing agent. So the reverse is happening. You want to buy a property, you're not going to act as a Florida Realtor, you're not involving us, and you want to make an offer. You can only use Florida Realtor forms if the listing agent, who is acting as the capacity as a Florida Realtor, initiates those forms and utilizes them. Then you can do so. If you're buying a non-listed property, right? A property that's not listed by an agent, you're purchasing, and the seller is a buy owner, then no Florida Realtor forms can be used. All right. Let's see. If the sellers are not represented by a realtor, rather as a for sale by owner, then the associate understands that the use of any Florida Realtor forms in the transaction is strictly prohibited. Associate properties that are purchased by owner, from a for sale by owner may not be entered into any Board of Realtor MLS. This is going to the next page. For statistical purposes, all right, just like before, no commissions or fees shall be owed Future Home Realty for purchase of real property by owner transaction. In the event an associate exercises the right to purchase or sell property, the associate understands that E&O does not cover the associate for the transaction. Matter of fact, it wouldn't anyway, because that's why we have this prohibition. So we're having issues with this. So we're going to help you overcome that potentially in the next paragraph. If you wanted an MLS, there's still hope. So hang on. The associate agrees to fully disclose to all parties that they are a licensed Florida real estate associate, whether they transact in a purchase or sale of real property as a buy owner or in the sale of real property under the limited services scope of Future Home Realty as described above. Actually, it's below. All right. Okay. Now I'm going to change that, but for the purposes of this class, it'll say below. All right. In the event of an associate owner would like to have their property in the MLS for advertising purposes, they may do so through Future Home Realty. Here's how this is. So let's say you want to sell your own property, right? You have a property that you own, or you have an ownership interest in, and you would like to enter it in the MLS. Before you entered it in the MLS, well, there were problems. We were having issues with that. So what we have done is we have created a method that you can utilize us through a flat fee listing agreement, i.e. a limited services agreement, where we will enter the property into the MLS for you on your behalf. All right. into the MLS on your behalf for a flat fee, and you will act as a limited services owner, i.e. you're going to still, it's a way for you to get the property in the MLS. All right, so let's read this. In the event of an associate owner would like to have their property in the MLS for advertising purposes, they may do so with Future Home Realty, Inc. The associate owner shall agree to utilize Future Home Realty under a limited services listing agreement and operate under a no brokerage relationship status. That means we're going to have no brokerage relationship with you. We're just going to put it in the MLS for you and then let you receive the calls. The admin of Future Home Realty shall facilitate all the listing paperwork and be responsible for the limited services listing file with the office. The fee for the limited service listing shall be $295. All right. Now, the reason we chose that is that you could put it in MLS, and in the Tampa Bay area, many of you could put it in and offer a co-broke of 2.5% or 3% minus a maximum of $295. That $295 could be reimbursing you for the fee that you paid us to put it in MLS. This fee made payable to Future Home Realty shall be paid by the associate owner prior to the limited services listing being made active in the Board of Realtor MLS. In addition, it is the associate owner's responsibility to provide at least one photo of the front of the property prior to the limited services listing being made active in the Board of Realtor MLS. So you have to provide us the $295 fee, all the required limited service listing documents that our admin will assist you with getting signed, and at least one photo so that we can properly put it in MLS. Any signage utilized with the limited services listing agreement shall direct potential customers directly to the associate owner and shall in no way utilize the name Future Home Realty or its logo. So in essence, you're going to have to act as a for sale by owner, just that you're going to have MLS exposure for that. Associate owner agrees to keep Future Home Realty Incorporated up to date on all status changes with respect to the listing for the MLS accuracy, including but not limited to closing information required by the Board of Realtor MLS. So this is a way that you, for $295. Now, there might be other companies you find outside of Future Home Realty that will do this for less for you. Then you are free to utilize them. The key for us is that we are not going to have any owners listing their own properties and purchasing their own properties. If they do, we have errors and omissions prohibitions on those things. There's a reason why. I've done much research on this. I've done it because of the issues we've experienced over recently. So this is a change we have to make, and it separates, if you will, the associate as from being a confusion, being the associate and an owner, and just say, hey, look, they're just an owner here, and there is no associate. The associate has a license, but is not acting in that capacity. If it's in the MLS, it's through a limited services listing agreement where it's done here. All right. So think through this. I know for some of you, probably 98%, 99% of you, this doesn't even matter. It doesn't occur. All right. But this is going to apply mostly to our investors because that's who do it more often. But even if you sell your own property as it's your primary residence, we are going to have to put this prohibition in here to protect both you and us that are there. So anyway, this is all great news, right? We have a hot market. It's a good time to be an owner of real estate, and I'm glad you can. It's just for the ongoing viability and to protect Future Home Realty's ability to be a going concern. We have to make these changes so that we can do that. All right. Again, this is Bob McDougald. If you have questions after digesting this, you can reach out to both Jim and I. I'll be talking about it at the January office meetings. I'll be discussing it every time I'm in front of agents, including growth sessions and such. Then you'll see an email coming out. You probably already have seen an email coming out from us, and you'll also be receiving this portion specifically with your 1099 this year. All right, thanks guys. Happy New Year. Hope you're having a great day, and I'm sure we'll talk soon.